Okay, we get started again this morning. Pauline, we're addressing you again. To the population, we've been addressing Pauline because she's a fish and chip shop lady that's supposed to be like the rest of you, but forgot how. So we're just going to keep addressing Pauline. Pauline, we continue down the Criminal Code Act 1995 and we discuss the criminal offences that have been committed by members of the Australian Government. 115.3, intentionally causing serious harm to an Australian citizen or a resident of Australia. So you don't have to be a citizen here, Pauline. You just have to merely live here and be a resident. 1. A person commits an offence if A. The person engages in conduct outside Australia and the conduct causes serious harm to another person and the person is an Australian citizen or resident of Australia. Now, in the legal sense, Pauline, we have to define technically what is Australia in this sense. Is it the continent of Australia? Is it the Great Seal of Australia? Is it the Great Seal of the Commonwealth of Australia? Now, these are very real things that we need to define within the criminal code, Pauline. Now, if these Aboriginals are not citizens of Australia, that would mean that they're outside of Australia, and that would mean that they could possibly engage in conduct that could intentionally cause serious harm to an Australian citizen or a resident of Australia, Pauline. And a penalty for imprisonment for 20 years, Pauline. This is where we're at. 115.4, recklessly causing serious harm to an Australian citizen or a resident of Australia. And again, what is Australia? I mean, this is the technical ramifications of us going before a court. You are going to define these things very specifically before we move on. 115.4, recklessly causing serious harm to an Australian citizen or a resident of Australia, Pauline. A person commits an offence if the person engages in conduct outside Australia and the conduct causes serious harm to another person and a person is an Australian citizen or a resident of Australia. The first mentioned person is recklessly as to causing serious harm to the Australian citizen or resident of Australia or any other person by that conduct. Now, if Albo is under an oath foreign to the line of authority established in the Constitution, would he be outside of Australia or would I be outside of Australia? These are real questions, Pauline, because I'm feeling recklessly harmed by the Prime Minister's office right now because he's failing to divulge the specific wording of the change he wishes to make to my legal document called the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution, found at Clause 9 to the Constitution Act. Right, 115, saving of other laws. This division is not intended to exclude or limit the operation of any other laws of the Commonwealth or a state or territory. Okay, this is more specific to the Attorney General's office. So, Attorney General, what are you going to do about your Prime Minister recklessly causing harm to Australians by not divulging changes to their legal document that makes them Australians? There's some serious shit that you all need to get your heads around. We're coming for you. This ain't turning around anymore, Governor General. This ain't turning around anymore, Attorney General. I'd suggest you get your legal thinking hats on and start working out how you're going to deal with the crimes that you've all committed. Right? You've allowed this mockery to happen in our government. You've allowed this mockery to happen in our parliament. Now, 115.6, bringing proceedings under this division. Proceedings for an offence under this division must not be commenced without the Attorney General's written without the Attorney General's written consent, not permission, sorry. So, Attorney General, 115.4, recklessly causing serious harm to an Australian citizen or a resident of Australia. Now, I put it to you right now that you and the Prime Minister's office are actually doing this to all Australians as we speak, by not divulging why they're going to a referendum in the first place, expecting them to go to a referendum so that you just come along and make changes willy-nilly after the fact. I don't think that's going to happen, Prime Minister. This is a legal document you're talking about that defines the very foundation of the country. Right? There's a legal document you as an administering power allowed these Aborigines into in the first place. You've been caught out at it, and we will stand up before all courts from now on, Prime Minister. Now, Pauline, you've been informed very clearly of all of these things. Okay? This reckless action of sabotage from within the offices of the Parliament will stop. You can't undermine a constitution at which you're supposed to administer after having it defined on a court record by Justice Lonergan of the Supreme Court of New South Wales. Is this a technical legal impossibility now, Pauline? You can't undermine a principle at which you administer. You've been caught out, and it will be followed through with at the finest letters of all the law, Pauline. It will be pushed through all the High Court, if necessary, Pauline. So I'd suggest at this point you start to realise these things are very, very real. And we're not speaking horseshit anymore. I'd suggest to the people that you start to realise there's a foreign occupying power in your land. It has been in your land since 1954. It lowered the Admiralty ensign of your Admiralty fleet in 1967 and pushed Gough Whitlam out of government and took over. They've been in your government since they pushed Gough Whitlam out. They've been putting your country into an oppressive state by raping and stealing everything that is the lands underneath your feet. Your only opportunity now is to do what God told you. And Trump stood before the Church of Presidents of 1812 with his Bible back then in the lockdowns for a very good reason. He came out to display to you that these monsters are trying to undermine the very foundations of the very core constitutions that you are. And you're starting to see that attack on your constitution today when these communist ideologies and foreign alien powers in your government have now started to dismantle and attack the very thing that forms your country in the first place. This is an act of treason. This is an act of treachery. This is an act of... These are serious offences. And if Albo wants to call himself an Australian, he has committed those offences from inside the office of Prime Minister, Pauline. You are committing offences right now from inside the Senate, Pauline. And we are watching, we are documenting, we are coming for that courtroom, Pauline. We are coming before all Australians to show them that this fraud, this delusion cannot continue, Pauline. And I will call it a delusion. You are all delusional, Pauline. The delusion has been sealed on the court record. The Supreme Court of New South Wales court record under Justice Lonergan defining you as an administering and foreign curial power in this land. The delusion is very real when you don't understand or comprehend the ramifications of this, Pauline. This has become so real that God is flexing his muscles and is about to stamp down on all of you that have committed crimes within his estate. You need to understand this, Pauline. This ain't stopping. This ain't going away. This ain't turning around. According to the law, you have created acts of sabotage, treason. You have been treacherous. You have been reckless. You've been negligent. Okay? All these are legal ramifications that you all need to face, acting like children in your ignorance. And ignorance is no excuse when it comes to the law, especially when you've taken an oath to sit in an office and you have duties to that crown. Duties, Pauline. Duties to know the law. Duties to uphold the law. And especially from the Senate, to uphold the condition of the House of Representatives and to clean up your own house where you can't even hold someone to account for mocking your own crown. You allowed that to happen in our parliament, and it's a disgrace, Pauline, and the charges, they're being summed up right now, and we will move forward. If the AFP do not start charging these people immediately, we will step forward into the courts and charge them ourselves, and we'll do it very publicly. We'll do it in front of the entire world. We'll show the entire world every document that we publish. Right? This is where we're at, Pauline. You think you're going to get away with it? You're sadly mistaken. You've been caught out at your game. You're war criminals in that parliament. You're national criminals in that parliament. You're federal criminals in that parliament. And you're state criminals in that parliament. Right? The law is very clear when it comes to what Lydia did, and you cannot let it get away with it anymore. The law is very clear on what Albo's doing right now, and you cannot let him get away with it anymore. You can't say that he's the Prime Minister, he's excused from it. You can't say the Governor-General's excused from it either. You really need to start fingering these people for the criminal offences they've created, and stop treating it like politics, and stop treating it like parliamentary privilege, Pauline. This is where we're at. You start to understand that these are actual criminal offences and you're going to have to deal with them.